Access Live with Kevin Rankin.
Hey everybody, it's great to have you here. Just a few minutes late. We had some technical issues, and that's just part of that's par for the course, right? Pandemic forced us to do all sorts of that kind of stuff. So listen, if you guys are watching from any place else other than YouTube, do me a favor and go to the link below. Go to youtube.com/all access live with Kevin Rankin. Hit the subscribe button, and there's a little bell next to it. You'll be notified about all of my upcoming guests. Got some great ones this week. I've got Michelle Lynn from the band Night Rose, and next week I've got Mike Skill from the Romantics. He's got a great new record out. He's going to be on my show next Wednesday, and the following day, Mike Klaus, incredible supporter of the local music scene here in Portland. So if you want to know more about upcoming guests, go to accesskevin.com, and you can see the calendar, find out a little bit more about those guests, and then you can go back and look at all 234 of the episodes I've done since May of last year. Incredible time, man. We have had some wonderful guests, and I'm really excited about today's. But before I get started with him, let me thank sponsors. My wonderful sponsors at 5-Star Guitars are celebrating an anniversary this week. They're based in Beaverton, Oregon, which means that they have no sales tax. If you're outside the Oregon area, you want to buy guitars or get any kind of supplies, go to 5starguitars.com/all-access-live and hit the promo code down below, all access 15. You're going to save 15% on top of the fact that there's no sales tax, so you save a bunch of money. But even cooler than that is my newest sponsor, who happens to be a huge fan of my today's guest. Rhythm Traders is also in Oregon. There's no sales tax if you go to rhythmtraders.com. You can find drums, you can get repairs, you can get lessons from incredible professionals. And if you practice enough and on your skills, you can get to be as adept as today's guest. So this guy has played with the biggest names in the music industry. He's one of my favorite drummers to watch, but more importantly, even than his visuals, he's got a great amount of insight on what it takes to be a working musician. So we'll talk a little bit about his past and what he's done in the pandemic. He's got some great records out too, so we'll talk a little bit about that. So again, if you came from any place other than YouTube, click youtube.com/all-access-live with Kevin Rankin. Subscribe, hit the bell, be notified, and then like this video. So today's guest is none other than this incredible drummer from across the room. Drummer, brother from another mother. This is Tyrone Hendrix. What's happening, man?
Man, how you doing, Kevin? It's good
I'm
seeing you.
great. You know what? It's crazy, dude. We've been in town for a time, and while I've actually gotten to watch you play live, you and I have never had a chance to sit down and hang out in a room. So this is as close as it gets, man. It takes a pandemic, for us to be able to chat and talk shop. But your name came up a bunch in the episode I had last week, the Portfolio project. We were talking about the grooving that you're doing with them, and man, you've done so many amazing gigs. You're part of a bunch of gigs. I think you're still doing Doo Doo Funk All Stars too, right?
Oh yeah, whenever we can get together, yeah, we still do the Doo Doo Funk All Stars. That's been my fam for over 10 years now. So
that's amazing, man. Tom Tony from Oregon Music News did a clip with you. Man, it's like about 10 years ago, actually. So he talked a little bit about gigs that you've done in the past. One of the questions he asked you, I thought, was about inspiration and kind of preparedness. We can get into the whole interview style of stuff, but I think when I talk to other musicians on the show, I not only stress, it's important to get the fundamental stuff down, man, get the chops together and practice and all that, but interactivity, relationships, those kinds of things are so important. One of the things I say in the interview was talking about a recommendation that you got for the Stevie Wonder gig. And so a continuous message that I have in the show is not only putting yourself in a position where you've got the abilities there, but building relationships so that people can trust you. You can be a reliable person to get that call. So tell me now, man, with the amount of names that you've played with, and we'll get into those names in a second, how much would you say, in a percentage wise, how many have you gotten based on a recommendation versus just getting called on an audition?
I would say pretty much about 75% of the gigs I have is just off name. and just being professional. Um,
Yeah.
And that I've stressed that when I do clinics to all the drummers that everybody's talented, but talent is not the
Yeah.
only thing that's going to carry you. You got to learn the material, and really be a good hang. Also, you know what I'm saying, and
Hey. Yeah.
have a very open mind to criticism
Hmm.
and
Oh,
critique
yeah.
because a lot of guys, they have an ego thing where somebody says something and it's like, I can't believe you said that to me, or they take it they take it the wrong way. So you really have to
Right.
be open, have an open mind when you walk into a rehearsal, because everything you do is not going to be necessarily for the song. There's going to
Right.
be a time when you get to do the flair, but if it's just a simple boom, the whole song, just do
Yeah.
that. But
Right.
it's all removing your ego at the end of the day. So
Man, glad you brought up the hang. I talk about it all the time. I've got my 22-year-old son. He's a hip hop artist, amazing drummer. He's got all the
mhm,
chops in the world, right? And when he was first playing drums, I was at this school where, of course, when you're younger, right? I mean, being able to play as fast as you possibly can and play chops in the world is really, that's what we are attracted to, right?
mhm.
The Olympic drumming, and there are some guys that do it in such a way. I mean, you're one of those guys. You've got all the facilities to be able to do that stuff. But I have seen you walk in there and play straight time for 3 minutes non, no fill. Man, you just did exactly what was right. And the cool thing is, watching guys play, like, as a musician, you go, all right, this guy's got it, man. And you're just waiting for it. The anticipation is actually even cooler than actually when it happens, right? But
Mhm.
the hang is so key, because if you're not somebody that you would want to hang out with, who else is going to want that either, right? So if you're stuck in a van or in a bus or hanging
Man.
out in rooms 24 hours a day, right? So maybe let's start off with some anecdotes, man. How about early days? Tyrone Hendrix is doing these gigs. Um, was it you, or were there other? Can you remember some opportunities where these guys showed up, they had chops, and they were just the least fun person to hang out with, and you knew, okay, this guy's not getting the gig for very long. You don't have to
Yeah, I
name
mean,
names.
you don't have to name names, but it's definitely a lot of horror stories that I've heard through the years being around a lot of cats, man. And
Yeah,
to the point where they just showed up, didn't know nothing,
yeah,
just or cussed out somebody, you know, or
yeah.
like I said, they're just not a cool individual to be around. You can't be around them for like 5 seconds. You just got to go. And
Oh,
it's yeah. I mean, when you're leaving the house on a tour for, let's say, it could be 2 weeks to 2 months.
yeah.
You want to know that the people you're hanging with is going to be cool, because you're not around your family.
Right,
So this is your family.
right. Yeah.
And you're going into foreign territories where you don't, you go in these different states, or if you're going across the overseas, you in a whole different country, you got to have each other's back. I have to
Right.
rely on you. You have to rely on me. So it's very important that, you be respectful and be cool. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, being respectful and being humble is, those two things will take you very far in this business, you know.
Absolutely. Humility, and that's something too that I've heard so much about you. I was talking to Doug Jenkins and Skip Von Kusky last week about your Portland Cello project.
Mhm.
Sean Footy, man, Sean
Oh,
Footy
Sean
too,
Foot.
man. Yeah, so well, I call him Footy, right, man? I'm most people in the business. Sean, when he started playing with Liv, he and I had been playing with Jennifer Patton for a long time,
Mhm.
right? And so, yeah, so Sean was the first person to hit me to you, actually, at the most amazing hang. Guy has all the chops in the world, but his humility was so powerful and impressive to me. He was telling me about this kid, Tyrone Hendrix, right? He had all these chops. He said, dude, this guy, he shows up and he's unassuming because he walks into the room. He knows what's up, but he doesn't need to walk in and broadcast it. And that was one of the things I really appreciated knowing about you before I got to see you play.
Mhm.
Um, Now, I have certainly seen those kind of guys that have all the bravado in the world. And a dear friend of mine, Nate Morton, right? He's the house guy
Mhm.
on the Voice. On the Voice, he talks about the family that they have. He had some gigs like Cher. He was doing the house gig for Cher. He was a house drummer. They were playing Caesars for um, residency. He talked about how kind Cher was, some of the artists that he'd played with, where they remember his birthdays, remember like his favorite meals, and these
Mhm.
are big artists, right? They're big names. So uh, when you've talked to and Clint and some of these other places, and you talk about humility, how do you talk to a 14-year-old kid who's watched all the gospel chops in the world and he thinks, man, what I need to do is have swagger, right? That's what's going to get me the gig. How do you get through to like a young teenage kid to be impressionable and show him humility is such a key part of this?
Well, my way is telling them kind of my journey of when I was a kid. Um, and for me,
Let's hear it.
drums is more than just music for me because I'm from Oakland, California. That's my
Okay.
birthplace.
All right.
I moved here. I moved here in 2004, but Oakland there really wasn't too many things to do. So I got to play drums at my church, First Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church. And my pastor, the late James W. Stewart, he allowed me to, he allowed me to play. Like this was my safe haven. So
Mm,
I look at drums as it saved my life.
really?
So
Okay.
that's where my humility comes from. So
All right.
I'm not going to walk in a room feeling I'm a bigger I than the team. And it doesn't matter who I've played for. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That doesn't matter to me. I'm just thankful that I'm getting to play again. I get another day to play.
Yeah.
And even the times when I was getting a little out of my character, I had older people around me to reel me back in, because I come from a different total generation from this generation now of, because like you were saying before, the kids, they're used to seeing YouTube and
Right.
they learn all that other stuff first, but they learn no
Hmm.
foundation. Where for me, we didn't have YouTube, you
Right.
know,
Yeah. Man,
we
if we did, right, how different things would be, right? But
yeah, yeah. I mean, trust me, it's great, but it also they miss the fundamentals of how to get to they just see the chops. They don't see
yeah,
the fundamentals what led up to the chops. And like,
sure.
these guys that are doing these chops in these songs is like, are you really listening to how he set up how to do that? He didn't just get up there and just start doing it. It was a
Right.
whole mental approach to how he got there.
It's
So
like watching slam dunk contest for the NBA and not
yeah,
realizing how many free throws those guys have shot, right?
yeah.
Before uh, I'm glad that you bring up some of the other artists too. You said that you learned humility from some of these guys. So maybe give me some experiences of some of the well, going back to church. All right. So you
Hmm.
talked about it was some of the interviews I've seen with you. You talk about being in, shout gospel bands, right? So that shout music is where you referred to as your formative days of playing drums. Um, Explain to somebody who might not understand what shout's all about, that music and what the energy comes from.
Well, I mean, gospel, it's all soul. I'm
Mm,
self-taught. I don't know how to read or write music or nothing like that. So everything I've done, thank God that he's opened all these doors for me. But yeah, I'm just self-taught. I learned from
okay.
listening to records, and two of the main gospel groups that I listened to, one being the Hawkins family, and another
Mm,
being Milton Brunson from the Chicago area. It was two drummers, one being Joel Smith, who essentially is pretty much the godfather of drums and bass in the gospel world, and then another drummer named Kevin Bronson that played for the Bronson family. So I was just listening to these records, playing along to them, and that's kind of how like I kind of like built, kind of got my ear, listening to songs, the structure of how
okay.
they played it, how they approached it. And the cool thing is that Joel is from Oakland. Um,
Oh, really? Okay.
and so me, I had an older gentleman by the name of Leonard Jones. Played organ with me in the church. Man, we would go to all the musicals where Joel was at, and I just sat there and would study and watch how he approached everything. And he's a guy where I say with humility, like
Yeah.
he could walk in the room. He's Joel Smith. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the man of gospel. Like he's revered.
Yeah.
But the dude was so cool. You could walk up to him and talk to him. He didn't walk in with an ego. He just would come in and do his thing. So that's kind of like that was my standard looking at how he did things.
How old were
And
you
then
when you were seeing them? Early on.
man, I was like 15, 16 years old,
Okay.
you know,
All right.
and
Yeah.
going to recordings, seeing how he like prepare for recordings. And then when I turned 21, my first gospel recording I played, he was on bass.
Really?
He
That's a
was on
great
bass.
nice, man. That's a great
Yeah.
transition. Did you get to talk to him and hang with him,
Oh yeah.
back when you were, like, 15? And so he saw
Well,
this aspiring young kid,
mhm,
I see something here.
mhm. Yeah, and during that whole week of the recording, and trust me, I was nervous because I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm playing drums, Joe's on bass. This is the most nervous I've ever been for anything. Because, like I said, that's like the standard for me is Joe. And it was Robin Hodge Williams. The record was called Anoint Me. And you know, he came in and he knew I was nervous, and he was like, look, man, just relax. We're gonna have a good time. Let's play the music. And he gave me a couple of pointers. He'd be like, you know, he'll stop a song and be like, Ty, let me show you something, to get up on the drums and show it to me. And like I said, you have to be open to critique. You know what I'm saying? He's like, man, do the like ghost note thing right here, do this, do that. And just did it. And then from that, I realized that little sudden thing that he did changed the whole dynamic of the song.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Not nothing tempo wise. It was just little subtle things. And
just little subtle ghost notes, or do a hi-hat pattern like this, or like stop on this right here. You know, it was little simple stuff and just changed the whole flow of the song. And yeah, it was like it's like the greatest week of my life getting to hang with him for that. So yeah,
it's like 15 to 21. That was you mentioned that was the first recording you did. Is it 21?
well, 21 was the first recording, but
Yeah.
but like 15 is kind of where I feel like I started really playing in Oakland a lot, around the city,
Yeah.
gospel wise. So
Man, it's a tough city, right? I mean, you talked about how drums kind of save your life, and so
yeah.
I'm sure that you got stories about that city. Watching some of your classmates, buddies go a different route.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. I've lost so many classmates from middle school to high school. You know, I was kind of looking at not too long ago when I went to Oakland, looking at like a yearbook, and you're just seeing like 10 to 15 people on there that are not here anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm 45 now, and I'm like, that was only like 20 something years ago, and like they're not here. And some of them, like, it happened like right when we got out of school, or for some of them we were in school. So
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the city, from everything I've heard, people that grew up there. Yeah, I mean, drugs tough, gangs really hard, man. And guys that that I've talked to about music being that escape. Was it gave them an outlook that was more than just. I'll just tell you my background. Right, I grew up in Montana, out in the woods, and I was like so far away from everybody, but I found a bunch of like cowboys, and I was way out of my comfort zone, man. I was a rocker, right? All I wanted to do was like go to Los Angeles and be a freaking rock star. And the last thing I wanted to do was hang out and listen to, these guys and get these cares and to stay in the same town.
Yeah.
It was tough, but not Oakland tough, right? So when I would, a lot of my buddies went to California right away out of high school, and it shocked them out of the music industry. I'm one of the only guys that I knew that were aspiring to play music that are really doing what they absolutely love. But I feel grateful, right, that the roll of the dice, man. I grew up where I did, but I listened to. I don't know how much a sports fan you are, right? Like
big sports fan.
Okay, so Seattle Seahawks, my team, man. Richard Sherman was an Oakland guy, right? And I remember him talking about growing up where his parents worked hard. His dad was a garbage man, and he worked so hard, crazy hours. Richard could go to Stanford and get out of that scene and become, an NFL star. And he goes back to Oakland, as does Marshawn Lynch, right? And they go back to the community and try and give back. But they, are these success stories where they can go back and contribute to the community. When you go back, do you have the sort of, because I think about the bands you've played with. I'm sure you've gone back and played like Yoshi's, doing some jazz and funk and soul stuff back in Oakland. When you go back home and you're playing these gigs, is there kind of like a little bit of you that feels like, man, this is still my community, this home, and you feel kind of protective of those people there? Do you still have family back home?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much where all my family is at.
Okay.
My biggest music influences. So, Oakland is always going to be right here, no matter wherever I go. Oakland that's when you hear me, you hear Oakland. That just is what it is. Because with Oakland, man, we groove different. I feel than anybody else.
Okay. Yeah. How so? Where can you describe it?
I don't know. We just got this sound. It's an Oakland sound that we have. And Yeah, but like I said, when you have, like Carl Wheeler, great organ player, keyboard player, Derek Hall, great keyboard player, and Eric Pickfunk Smith, bass player, my dude Jubu Smith, guitarist. Like, it's just this sound that we just have, and this groove that we have, man. It's undeniable, and you kind of know, like, that dude's from the Bay Area. Like, you could just hear it. The Bay has this thing.
Okay, so I mean, I definitely know distinctive sounds. Like, you got in Nolens, and you get guys down in that area.
Yeah,
Atlanta, Chicago. Man, I
definitely
hear those areas too.
New York, they got New York, they got their sound too. Yeah,
of course, man. Yeah, and Northwest is like Sleepy Town in a lot of ways, right? I mean, you think about guys that are up here, guys that bring the influences in have come from these other spots. So I'm trying to think, like, if you had to maybe give a couple of adjectives, describe like what it is about the Oakland sound that's different than the Bay sound.
Like I said, mainly it's the groove, kind of the way the keyboard is, kind of the way they move with their phrasings. You know what I'm saying? It's just different. You, like I said, it's nuances that you hear in the music that you kind of know, like, all right, this dude's from this part of the country, this guy's from this part of the country, this guy's from this part of the country. It's just little nuances, little baby things you can do. Like even with LA with their keyboard players, they have little nuances that they do, and you can just tell, like, all right, that dude's from LA, so you can hear it. You can hear it.
You know what? I didn't even think about that, but the one time I got to see you play was with Erskine, right? And I totally forgot that Damien's kind of from that area, man. And I always think about him being local too, man. But yeah, now that I think about it,
he's from Cali.
Incredible bass player, but also a wicked drummer, right, man? He was a little drummer originally.
Yeah.
And so all right. So stylistically, you play a ton of stuff. When I listen to the stuff you do with Liv Warfield, there's certainly a rock and R&B influence in that. So so maybe let's talk about getting to Portland, your introduction to Portland, the scene, like what brought you here, and what music you started playing right when you get here.
So primarily I was playing gospel up to the point where I got here to Portland in 2004. Like, I had never really went out playing in bars, venues, or nothing like that. I was just playing in church and doing recordings and sessions.
Okay.
So 2004, I'm playing at a church in Vancouver with LaRonda and Mark Steele.
Oh my gosh, man.
And so LaRonda is like, I have somebody I want to introduce you to that I think you would sound great in her band. And that happened to be Liv.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Liv credits LaRonda for being like her sort of godmother introduction. Yeah.
Yeah. Her and Linda Hornbuckle. Man.
Of course. Both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So that was it, man. Like LaRonda brought you in, introduced you to Liv. And,
Liv came to my church.
Okay.
And we talked, and she was like, well, I have this gig here at the Doug Fir in the Blues Fest. And I had never heard of the Blues Fest. And this is about 2000, 2005. Yeah. And so I go into the rehearsal, and Foot's on bass, Sean Foot's on bass, Sadell Jones on keys, and what's his name? Dan Goudet is on guitar.
Right.
From the first song, it felt magical.
Yeah.
First song, just magic, right off the rip.
Oh, man, if you guys are watching this and you are not hip to this band that Tyrone's talking about, I know, and I've heard this from other people, that when you tell people you want to see really what the Liv Warfield gig is like, watch the Jimmy Kimmel clip, right? The Why You Lie clip, when you guys come out there with the new Power Generation horns. It's freaking ridiculous, man. It's so there's so much power in that thing. But when I picture you and Sean playing, like Sean is, man, he's a plant, right? The dude's a nurse, and it's crazy to me that he's not just playing a ton of gigs right now, because family is really, really good for him. But he had some of the best pocket I ever remember playing with, man, and I miss the dude terribly. But
best pocket and very distinct, clean bass tone.
He listens.
He was about his tone. Yeah.
Like, and listening is a huge part of it. But Liv, the thing that I was fascinated by was that she too was not a traditional trained singer.
No.
Right? She talked about singing karaoke at
karaoke.
right here
Hmm.
in Portland, and that blows me away because if I watch clips of you guys playing, whether it's with, she's like with Prince or she's out doing her gig, that woman was put on this planet to sing. There's no other thing that she should be doing than singing, you know.
Well,
And what a beautiful, what a blessing, right, for her to be doing that.
and I
I
tell you what, we
yeah,
we we used to rehearse Monday through Wednesdays at least 4 hours a night. So when
wow,
you're in the room accumulating that many hours of just playing together,
yeah,
it doesn't matter what your skill level is, you're going to develop a sound. And I felt with
yeah,
Liv, we developed a sound, and
yeah.
I feel that's personally what Prince heard because he discovered her looking at YouTube. We did just what is that song? Just a pen away. It's just a prayer way, I believe.
Yeah, and
Um,
it was a very Prince-like tune, right? Even before
yeah,
he yeah, yeah.
yeah, and he saw that YouTube, and that's how she got the call.
Wow.
But what he saw was Liv's sound on display. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was a vibe that we had on stage. And with her, out of any artist I had, I've always felt like it was kind of like a Kobe Shaq kind of duo thing with me and her. She
nice.
could go somewhere, and I was going to go with her every
Yeah,
time. And
yeah,
it was always fun and always a pleasure to share the stage with her.
of
So
course. Well, there was communication happening between you guys. It's cool to watch clips. It's you can go down the rabbit hole and find so many great videos of you guys playing. But
mhm.
she's got this thing, man. I mean, you talk about swagger. That girl,
Yeah.
she's got it. But you just as you talked about the different styles, right? You got here and you were recommended for that gig.
Mhm.
One of my favorite performances is also with one of my favorite local bands, man. I saw you go do the South by Southwest stuff with Tango Alpha Tango.
Tango
That's
after
great.
tango.
I love him, man. I mean, Nathan True, dude, I think he's another one of those guys that I think, he's an undiscovered hero to me. I think he's a killer songwriter, a phenomenal guitarist.
Yeah,
Uh,
rock
you
and
know,
roll all the way through.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I'll tell you, man, a story about that dude. So Mirabai, right, his wife, who I don't think
Yes.
they were not married when you guys were first playing that gig, but she lived across the street from me here. She was in high school, and he
Mhm.
would come over with his old hot rod and his hair slicked back and his guitar strung on his back. I think he was like 18, and he was like teaching her how to play, and they were hanging out
Yeah.
and dating, these little teenagers. And I was playing her bathroom, my garage. We were hunting for some gigs, and
Mhm.
I remember seeing him like bringing his guitar in, and I'd never talked to him. I said, "Hey, man, you play guitar? You know who Jennifer Batten is?" And he goes, "Yeah, who doesn't?" And I said, "You want to say hey?" And it's like, "Whatever. She's not at your house, and she's here in my garage." And we talked for a while, and he said, "Yeah, I got a gig at Body." Like him and his brother had a band way before Tango. We went out to go see him. He's playing with
Mhm.
his teeth. He's like not even old enough to be playing in the bars. And Jennifer's like, that dude's got it. He's totally
Yeah.
got it. And so I don't know how it happened that they brought you along for this Austin for the South by Southwest festival in Austin, but
Yeah, that was fun.
what a treat, man! I mean, like, you were killing it, dude. They just like set you loose. Tyrone Hendrix back here on drums, and then they walked away, and you just got to go you let loose. How did
It
you
was
end up with
funny. The
those
next
guys?
the next night we went on Sixth Street, just me and him, and just played. He had the guitar, I had the drum set, and we're just in the middle of Sixth Street playing.
Really,
There's
you
that's
brought your
there's
kit
that's a
with you?
YouTube clip of
You
that.
okay? Right on. Yeah, that I love the dude.
Mhm.
How did you end up playing with those guys? Just
Um,
another recommendation?
so I met them through they used to come to the Doodle Funk jam, the Doongie Jam.
Okay.
But he was friends with Nefasaria Stroggins, with Nefasaria Matthews now. She's like, my sis from the Doodle Funk.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we met, was through her. And he was already a big fan. It was just like, well, look, man, we're going to South by Southwest. Would you love to tag along? I ain't never been to South by Southwest, so I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
Another experience.
yeah, another experience. So yeah, that was a blast.
I'll bet,
That was a
man.
blast.
It's a rock and roll tour for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. If you want to maybe explain to people outside this area what the Duty Funk All Stars is all about.
Doodle Funk All Stars is just a collective of talented singers, talented musicians. My man Tony Ozier, one's up. He's the he's our leader. We have my man Dennis Dove. Basically, he's another
Yeah.
drummer, but he would play percussion while I played drums. He's part of the crew. Like I said, Nefersari Matthews, Arietta Ward, Mike Beatzilla, Steven Swatkins,
Yeah.
Don Phenom, Mike Elson. It's a gang of us.
Yeah. And Swatkin, you've actually like done a lot of stuff with Swatkin outside of that too, right? I know that you guys record together. And,
Oh yeah.
And you and I like offline too. And Dove Dennis, he brings the New York sound, right?
Yes,
To the
all
local
day.
scene, man. He's a New York drummer through and through. I know he was like a bucket drummer back there. And
Mhm.
I that gig, that collective, it's been around for a while. Didn't Farnell Newton have something to do with that gig? Or
Yeah,
was he band involved? Yeah.
him and Cal Molitor. They were the part of the horn section. It's
Okay.
other. Like I said, it's a whole collective. Jai Marshall guitar. Man, it's so many of us spread out, and then we have like friends in LA that were part of Doodoo Funk out there. That it's a big collective. Yeah.
Do you guys tour at all, or you just do like local Portland shows?
Nah, it never really went to the touring side. I mean, I think
Okay.
we did do Yoshi's in San Francisco. We did do
Okay.
that one time. I think we did LA like once, but that was pretty much it. But other than that, we're kind of all spread out, doing individual things. But trust me, if Tone make the call, say let's come back and do something, we all gonna be there.
Right.
So Tonio's here. If you hear me, make that call, man. We ready to do it.
That's right, man. Well, you know what? I mean, like the pandemic has sort of thrown a little
Yeah.
curveball at all of us, right?
Mhm.
I know that you've had. It was really cool to go back and look at your catalog. It's not just the stuff that you recorded with other people,
Mhm.
but I was talking to Skip Unkusky from the Portland Cello
Mhm.
Project the other day, and he mentioned that you had thrown your Breakbeats album over to him to scope it, and he said he threw a whole bunch of really cool cello stuff all over the top. So I was digging this record. If you're watching and you want to check out really great compositions of really well recorded and interesting parts, you got 2 volumes, right, of those drum compositions that pretty much are like a wonderful library that people can use for sample libraries and
Mhm.
uh, and so. Uh, I should probably talk about Portland Cello Project because you guys are going on tour, and I was excited to find that you first of all, I got the tribute to Prince that you guys put out there. My
Sweet.
beautiful girlfriend gave me that one, knowing that he was my man.
Mhm.
The record is so good, dude.
Thank you.
I think that the treatment of it is right. The version of "Get Off," what a cool of that, right? And
Mhm.
um, it made me think like, were you a Blackwell fan? Were you a John Blackwell fan?
Oh yeah, man! I got to meet John Blackwell on the Coming to America tour.
Did you?
Liv got his tickets to the Tacoma Dome, and we hung in the back and talked. And then he got to actually play my drum kit at the after party in Seattle. I forgot what the venue was,
Oh,
but yeah, he got to play the kit and everything. So it was pretty cool, man. Had Blackwell playing my kit. So yeah.
that's man. I see some of his style in your playing too. And I
Mhm.
don't know where John's from. I mean, where he was from. Rest in peace, man. I mean, wicked
Yeah,
drummer, and I
man.
know he had a real tragic, passing. But
Yeah.
he influenced a lot of guys. There, of course, there were a lot of gospel cats that were around prior to him being around. But he had there was a lot of people got to see him all of a sudden, and he was very bombastic. And Prince really
Mhm.
showcased him quite a bit. So a lot of guys that maybe weren't hip to you, a lot of gospel guys learned a lot of stuff from seeing John do his thing.
Mhm.
So do you feel like there was you got to borrow little influences from him along the way too?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, there's so many drummers I borrow from. I mean, I tell people, man, it's there's people be some drummers be like, yeah, I just came up with this chop. I'd be like, man, these chops. If you listen to Buddy Rich and all these guys, man, these dudes was doing this stuff in the '50s, man.
Right.
It's really no new chop. I mean, you may do it differently, but it's really not a new chop, man. It's
Most of it's been done before. I do hear a different voicing, in gospel chops that I wasn't hearing
Mhm.
before. Guys like Buddy, that had these incredible
Mhm.
fundamental like chops. Their discipline was amazing. But gospel chop drummers a lot of times will take voicings and do something completely different. And
Yeah.
again, like for me,
Mhm.
I enjoy it the way I love looking at like beautiful cars and thinking,
Mhm.
all right, I'd love to have a Lamborghini for a weekend. I don't want to pay for that insurance, and I certainly don't. How are you going to move a
Mhm.
drum kit around in a Lambo, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it doesn't seem very realistic for gig, but um, does it drive you crazy to go out there and watch a gig and just think, man, that guy's just like he's playing all over the top of everything. He's ruining the vibe of the gig.
Yeah, that can
And
that turn, but it doesn't just go for drums. It goes for any instrument, man. You
sure,
can
yeah,
totally butcher a song by just doing too much, or like you're going out to prove something. When my thing is, most guys get the gig by not trying to prove anything.
right,
Because like I said, the MD has to know that he can trust you to play the parts. The parts is the main deal. you
right.
know. And I'll give you a quick story of kind of how I got the Stevie Wonder gig through my man Mike Phillips.
Please,
Um,
thank
Mike
you.
Phillips, he's played for the trifecta: Michael, Prince, Stevie.
Shh.
He has his own projects out and everything. So Mike lives here in town. He had just moved here about 2010.
Okay.
Called me up to play a gig with him. So I get in there, and I'm kind of I'm kind of like half learned the material.
Ooh,
Man,
wow.
gotten there, that stuff kicked my butt.
Yeah.
Kicked my butt.
This is his
He was
solo
like,
stuff.
"Yeah, this is a show." Because
All right.
his show has a lot of segues, very intricate parts that you have to play to make the show the show. So
Yeah.
it's really, you got to really pay attention to what's happening, especially being a drummer, because I'm kind of carrying, leading into everything else, so I can't be off.
Right.
So I kind of like halfway learned the material. I really wasn't all the way ready for it. So he was like, "Look, man, go home, study." Came back the next day, had the showdown.
Yeah.
He respected that. And then he basically told me, like, "Man, like, I respect that you went home. You took the criticism," because he was on me. Trust me. He was like,
Yeah.
"Man, like, he was on me."
Well,
And
okay, how did he get on you? Tell me about how did he deliver it?
I mean, and he's straightforward. If you're not
Yeah.
hitting the parts, he's gonna let you know about it.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
coming from a malice place. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? Because
Yeah.
my thing is, if you don't say something and you just keep letting me just mess up, then I don't feel you care about me. Where I'm like, if you
Right.
say something to me, then I feel you care about me. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't have to say nothing. You could have just let me go down in flames and call somebody else, and that would have been it. But
Yeah.
obviously, you saw something in me to where, like, all right, this dude, he'll get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's got something there. Let me work with him. And basically from that, man, Mike, I went on a cruise with Mike, and then literally I'm in Montana. I'm actually in Bozeman, Montana. I get a
What?
text. I get a text from Mike Phillips saying, "Man, Stevie Wonder's looking for a drummer." And I'm like, so me looking at the text, I'm like, "Stevie who?" And he like, basically Stevie Wonder, fool. Like here's the information. He gave me the information to Nate Watts, Stevie's bass player for, man, been
Yeah.
his MD for years. And literally, man, a couple months later, I got the call, but it was based off that recommendation from Mike.
Months later. So
Yeah.
okay. So I mean, do you know how that all went down? Nate and just like he pondered it, maybe talked to a few other guys, looked around,
Well,
maybe found video.
they had auditioned another drummer and it didn't work out.
Okay.
I think he played a couple gigs and then it didn't work out. And then they gave me the call. And mind you, I never had an actual rehearsal with Stevie. I had to learn. They said, get the DVD, learn everything off the DVD. And that's how I came into the show.
Wow.
So
Yeah. You talked earlier about not reading charts, not reading music. So you have your own way of kind of sketching this stuff out. You're laying out arrangements and kind of marking stuff up, or you just
man,
memorizing.
my notes will drive you crazy, the stuff I write down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm all pretty much ear. So I'm gonna play that song on repeat. And if I can repeat it while I put it in my headphones, go to sleep, I'll do that. Because I want the music to be a part of me.
Yeah. Find the nuances, find like
Mhm.
the important parts. Uh, you know, Batten talked kind of the same thing about her Michael Jackson gig, right? She
Mhm.
mentioned that she got recommended for the gig. She walked into a room and basically auditioned to a video camera. And
Yeah.
Michael never came into the room. They weren't sitting down and working out parts or anything like that. But
Mhm.
and she had to wait a while to hear back too. So that's a bizarre way. But for musicians that are thinking, well, an audition is we walk into a room, everybody plays the same song, and then if it grooves, then I get the gig. That's
Yeah.
rarely how it works. If a music director or if they've got like down in LA, right? Um, boy, I'm spacing out his name, and I cannot believe it. 'Cause there's one guy that makes all the calls for every big gig, and I've heard
Is
so
it
many.
Ricky? Is it Ricky Minor,
No,
or is it
wow,
bass player?
why? No, he's not even a musician. He's just a guy that people can say, "Hey, I'm looking for a guy for this tour." Like Bieber's going out on tour. Need to get you know, like somebody out on the gig. Line me up with a
Uh-huh.
drummer, and we may get 3 or 4 different guys. If you guys are watching this and you know who I'm talking
Is,
about,
is it Blackstone? It might not be. Um, you
I
sure it's
can't
not Ricky
believe
Minor or Blackstone? It's
it's
because I know they're pretty much like the big heavyweights in the R&B scene and pop scene for as like gigs, like putting bands together. So um,
you, it's neither one of those, and I'm blown away that I can't think of it because like this guy mistook for the drummer for Rat once at the Rainbow, and I was like, no, that's not me, man. Sorry, but anyway, and I remember he had tried to get a friend of mine to audition. Like Avril Lavigne was looking for a new lineup, and I remember my buddy saying, the drag is they put me together in a cattle call. This guy's been
mhm,
playing LA forever. He's got all the chops in
uh-huh,
the world. And they felt like, oh, well, you're a metal guy. You're not going to be right
got
for
it.
Avril. And he's like,
Mhm,
dude, I can play it all.
mhm.
Have you back in a situation where somebody might typecast you because they thought, oh, you're a gospel guy. There's no way you should be able to play, or have you actually just earned the reputation of being so versatile that you could walk into pretty much any rehearsal and own it?
Well, with the cello project, that was kind of the big deal because they had another drummer before me. He had moved to Arizona. They were nervous because I didn't know how to read
Oh
music,
yeah,
because they're all pretty much readers. Well,
right.
Farnell Newton was like, "Don't worry,
Yeah,
he'll be okay.
yeah,
Trust me, he'll be okay.
right.
Don't worry about it." And the rest has been history ever since. So
Man, how long have you been doing that gig?
I've been doing that gig since 2017, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's like 5 years. You guys are going out and you're doing this tour to the Midwest in April. April 13th, I believe, is the show you're doing in Lewistown, Montana. And
Hmm.
I think I'm actually driving out because I'm just coming back from Europe the week before.
Oh, nice.
I'll be in Europe for 5 weeks, and
Hmm.
yeah, I might drive out to Montana, and I'll be your groupie, man. I'll follow you out there and watch you do this gig. I, they're friends of mine that booked that show, and
Got you.
it's cool because Montana, like I said, typically it's rare to find pockets of great cultural music there.
Mhm.
There are amazing musicians there, wonderful jazz musicians, great, bluegrass and funk and rock musicians, but uh, not as many as you might find out here. So I'm glad that you're taking it out there. You'll bring a vibe to Montana that
Yeah.
needs to happen.
I love Montana. Montana is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful place. Love it.
Well, yeah, great place to visit for sure, and to
Yeah.
be from, But
Hmm.
I mean, I just love that you were in Bozeman when you got the Stevie Wonder call. So the man, the amount of hours spent in the mountains in Bozeman, Montana, banging my drums outside the cabin I lived in. It's nuts. But dude, tell me about the Stevie Wonder gig, and then I have a funny anecdote for you with my drummer son. But when you got that call, and it was a few months, you started playing with Stevie. Were there a
Hmm.
lot of rehearsals, and then you headed out on the gig, like headed out on
No,
tour?
like I said,
Okay.
I never actually had a rehearsal with them.
What? You
Never
just
had a rehearsal.
Oh
Yeah, but
my god.
it was literally we played Drake's birthday party in
Oh
Toronto.
my wow. At
Um,
his place?
no, actually, we is at the amphitheater. I forgot the name of it, but it's a big, huge amphitheater. Um,
Okay.
and I guess Stevie is Drake's favorite artist, and he invited him out to the birthday. And then the next day, we played funeral for this boxing promoter named Butcher Lewis. Um,
Okay.
so that was yeah.
And so those gigs, no rehearsals, you show up. Obviously, you had the gig together. Uh, Tell me about the experience of being on stage with Stevie, with as a gifted, like multi-talented blind musician. What kind
Mhm.
of cues are you getting from him? Are there like you get foot cues from him when he wants to bump a little bit, or like tell me a little bit about what kind of unspoken stuff is going on to drive the band.
You kind of really just got to kind of watch his head. His head to give you kind of the cue of what's, when he wants to stop or anything like that. But mainly, it was mainly just like he said, study the DVD and do the hits off of there. That was pretty much,
Okay.
But he'll give you the universal cues if he's trying to keep something going. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, watching, and plus also keeping my eye on Nate, the MD, because he's played with him for so long. He knows, when he wants to keep going and when he wants to stop or anything like that. So, just keep my eyes on them too. And they were pretty much like he's like pretty much right behind him. So that helped out tremendously.
He's right behind you?
Well, Nate was right behind like Stevie. So
okay.
I can see them. Yeah, I can see them right there. Yes.
Eddie Martinez, another wonderful musician here that I've been
Oh,
blessed
yeah.
to play with. And Eddie and Carlos, his bass player, they had these great stories about growing up in Brooklyn, getting called to do auditions with Wonder when they were teenagers, and even though they didn't get the gig, Stevie paid them for their first like audition, and
Wow.
they were. It's to hear about that kind of reference, because Eddie would do the same thing with me. We'd play some local gig in Portland where people had no idea the gig was happening down at the Blue Monk. There might be 20 people, and Eddie would still pay you out because he had respect for you as a musician for dedicating the time and getting the stuff together. That too is another really, I feel like, a real special, I think, amount of respect that musicians might have for each other. But with the Stevie gigs, were there were you doing like a pretty long, consistent tour, or were they a lot of one-offs?
Just pretty much a lot of one-offs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little easier for everybody to get along, right? And
Yeah.
How big was the band at that point?
The band was pretty much like a 4-piece. We didn't have like the percussion players and the horns and all that. Yeah, So it was a little bit it was a little bit more intimate, So
yeah, that's sweet. I would think that'd actually be a lot more fun because you get more face time. My humorous story is that I mentioned my son, the 22-year-old drummer, when he was 17 or 18, I took him down to the NAMM show, his first NAMM show. And so people that are watching this that might not know what the NAMM show is, it's this huge music conference, trade show where I think they did like 100,000 people come in. All of the companies that have drums and guitars and basses and everything are there to show off their merchandise. And then they get artists that are sponsored. And the last day of the convention, my son and I went over to the Roland building, right? So you got all the keyboards and, of course, all the electronic drums. In the afternoon, they're closing everything up. All the shutting down, lights going out, booths are being picked up. And so we're pretty much alone in the section of the Roland booth. And all of a sudden, the entourage come pushing past. All these huge dudes come pushing past. And you could feel the energy in the room while the convention is really kind of cold and stale. And it was like this magic was moving by us, and the entourage kind of parted so that this dude could sit down at the keyboard. And they're 8 feet away from us, and there's Stevie sitting down. He sits down instantly, starts playing the keys. The guys are kind of gathered around, and they were just giving him an opportunity to come in and play without being, bothered by all the people at the convention. But my son, he's like 17 at this point. He's like, "So what's up with that guy?" I go, What are you talking about?" And he goes, "What's the deal with the glasses?" And I go, "You know who that is?" And he said, "No." I go, "Dude, that's Stevie Wonder." He goes, "This is not Stevie Wonder." And I said, "Caleb, it is." And he goes, "No, Stevie Wonder's blind." I go, "Yeah, dude, that's Steve." And he said, "No, that guy's looking at his hands. Look, he can't play like that as a blind man." I go, "Oh, buddy, I'm telling you, that's him. That's what makes that guy."
Guess what? He could have got them drumsticks. He would have got them drumsticks and got right on them drums.
True. Have you seen that documentary that Questlove put together from
the
Summer of Soul? And opened up with Stevie doing that solo, man. And he's ripping it so hard, dude. The drums are all falling over. And any drummer out there would wish, right, that they could have that kind of vibe on stage. But did he play drums with you while you guys were together?
No, he just played keys. Yeah.
But
I'm just saying, I've definitely seen 10 different clips of him on the drums from when he was a kid to probably up to 5 years ago, getting on the drums playing like it was nobody's business. So yeah.
What was the last time you played with them?
Man, maybe 20. Yeah, 2012, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, so you got Doo Doo Funk All Stars, you got Portland Cello Project.
Mhm.
I know that, well, you just put out your most recent record, this 21, right? Like that, your album just came out not that long ago. Are you planning on doing any like local stuff where you kind of showing off the record, pimping a little bit?
Um, as far as the record goes, not right now. I'm currently like working on Rhythm on Life Volume 3 in the works
Okay,
right now. Hopefully it'll be out hopefully August, September-ish. That's kind of my goal.
okay,
Um, but yeah, yeah, just kind of just been working on a lot of other people projects and just, doing things around the city that I can do. Of course a lot of shows have been getting canceled due to the variant that's happening. So, that's kind of been a bummer, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's strange when they do start to come back, because you get your
hmm
hopes up, you're thinking, "All right, man, we're on the other side of this thing," right? And
hmm
I'm surprised actually, that you guys will be doing 2 dates, I think, through the Midwest on your tour, and
yeah.
and I will have just come from, I was surprised. We've got, like, 5 weeks in Europe and 1 day off out of the entire tour.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
tour.
yeah. Yeah, man, but you know what? Any other time, I would have been like, "Oh, man, I could really." I'd love to have a day off where we could do laundry. I look around the city a little bit, but at this point, with much of a break from music, dude, I'll take every opportunity to play in drums I can. And if
hmm
you're like me, man, I just when the stuff you identify with is taken away, uh, I realized, man, I guess I took it for granted. You know, I never
Yeah.
want to again. So um, one of the things I ask people in the show a lot is legacy, like what they want to be known for. So, many, many, many years from now, when you're looking back at Tyrone Hendrix's um, years, the formative years, do you have kids, by the way?
Yes, I have 5 kids.
Okay, all right. So, when your kids are looking many, many years from now at dad's formative years, what would you want them to remember about you? What would you want to leave behind?
I mainly want them to leave behind that I was community. Um,
Oh,
I'm a community dude, and
yeah,
always show respect. Just because that's the main thing that's missing to me right now with a lot of kids is just respect.
yeah,
Be community, be respectful. You know what I'm saying? Be polite. There's nothing wrong with being that. You know what I'm saying? And just use common sense because
yeah,
I feel common sense has just went out the door these last
yeah.
couple of years, man. I just
What?
don't get it.
I don't get it either, man. Common sense, decency, those are the things. The common topic here on this show,
hmm
thinking, there should be a template to start from that is in a base level common sense
hmm
and again decency. And I struggle when I see indecency, and because I one thing I'm trying to work on really hard is not to judge.
Yeah.
I got filled with judgment, man, when I see something that I feel is unjust, or
hmm
indecent, and I instantly want to go and I think, okay, man, people that I hold in high regard, I talk about my Everest, the highest level,
hmm
Gandhi, Christ, Mr. Rogers, right? These are the
hmm
guys that would just do all for anyone else and find unconditional love. I was in
hmm
Thailand gigging, a couple years ago, man, and talking to this monk thing to learn unconditional kindness and love and respect. I was amazed by this, and I thought, okay, I want to aspire to get some semblance of that.
hmm
I'm never going to get to the Dalai Lama level, right?
Yeah.
If that's my Everest, then I'll just aim for a base camp, and I have my trajectory kind of towards
hmm
that,
Yeah.
and I think it'd be nice to think that that's part of community, right? That we're all sort of hopefully aiming that direction. But
Yeah.
when you talk about community and Oakland being your hometown, do you try to bring a little bit of that back home to back? Because if you've got family there, you're trying to promote decency, common sense. Do you feel like you have an influence in that community?
I'm definitely well respected, you know what I'm saying? Because people say, I've never changed from being the type of individual that I was from when I was a kid to now. They're like, man, you're still the same even keel guy. So
Nice.
all I can take from that is that, people respect me enough to know that, I'm not going to change. You know what I'm saying? I've been the
Yeah.
same way. I treat you with respect, treat me with respect. You know what I'm saying? And we'll everything will be cool. So I
Yeah.
mean, but I definitely know moving from there to here that I did feel my kind of my stress and anxiety level kind of decrease a little bit, because the Northwest is a little bit more chill than
Yeah.
California is a little bit more up, more movement. So I definitely feel like I did. My stress levels and anxiety kind of went down a little bit moving out this way. But I mean, like I said, Oakland is home. Love it to death. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, all my family is still there, and all my musical influencers, that I grew up with are still there. So,
Okay. I have to ask honestly then, uh, because I agree with you, Northwest and real deal. It feels like to me the anxiety levels raising a little bit the last couple of years here, man. All the way around. I think the
hmm
world kind of felt that when the pandemic hit, right? That people were struggling with it, but
hmm
I noticed that there's a different energy right now. I'm hopeful that kind of things ease up a little bit,
hmm
and as the pandemic goes away. But you mentioned that back in California, anxiety was high, and California was sort of the tempo of that was a little more like frantic. I think a lot of
yeah,
people are moving here, and a lot of people are moving out of Cali. If you notice that, like everybody seems to be moving somewhere else. Not just here, but
yeah.
but
Like Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a lot of people are moving to Las Vegas. It's insane.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, Vegas and Texas. I hear
yeah,
so many people moving to Texas, man.
yeah. Austin.
But
Yeah, Austin. A lot of people moving to
right,
Austin. hmm
yeah, I mean, that's a cool city, but I would not want to be in Texas, man. No thanks. The other question I ask people, man, is, um, and it's funny because it's tough sometimes to hit somebody with this. Is I ask people about their guilty pleasures. Like people that you mentioned, you go back home and everybody says, "Oh man, it's great that you're exactly the same that you were back in high school." But what would you think people might say if they feel like they really know you? What might
hmm
people be surprised to find out? Do you have any guilty like listening pleasures, or maybe like sneaking a food that people might not expect, or genre of music or movies or anything like that?
I think when it comes to genre music, people would kind of be shocked that I really like listening to old school country.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, all right. So a playlist, and if you flip through playlist, what would you hear?
Um. Man, I was a real the what's their name, the Dixie Chicks. I was a fan of
Okay.
theirs. Definitely
Awesome.
Kenny Rogers and like Dolly Parton and them. Yeah, I was really a big fan of kind of that genre of country music. I felt it was kind of like the lyrics are very
Yeah.
like real. Like they kind of don't hold back. They kind of just
Yeah.
said what was on their mind and that was it. And then to come to
Definitely
find
Dixie
out
Chicks,
that a lot
right?
of the big R&B songs actually come from the country artists. They just flipped it to
Really?
R&B. Yeah.
Man, that's interesting. On this show last year, I had Dolly's sister on. Well, she has two sisters, Martin, who looks and sounds exactly like Dolly, and
hmm
she has like over 40 albums of her own. She had a record deal when she was 17, and it was amazing to me. Her spirit was phenomenal, dude. I absolutely adored this woman. By the end of the conversation, she talked a lot about that community that you talked about,
hmm
family, how important it was for her, and I just pictured like her and Dolly and her family gathered together around a table. She mentioned they had nothing. There were no toys. They had no money. They grew up, dirt poor out in, the middle of the sticks. And she said it was all about sharing this time together. And I just, I mean, it was so warm and cool. I thought I had such a little crush on her by the time we finished the conversation. But, and I wasn't an old school country fan, but
hmm
after that, I go back and I listen to, there are some songs that I think they transcend the genres. They don't sound like country to me, right? I mean, even there's a little
hmm
twang, but yeah,
Yeah.
lyrically, there's a story behind those that's really cool. And maybe growing up in Montana, that's why I ran from it, right? Because I thought,
Gotcha.
oh man, I'm just not this hip, I can't be, man. But there's and anymore, right? The modern country, it's a rock band, right? I mean, it really
yeah.
is. These guys, you go to Nashville, and these guys have all the gospel chops and all the rock chops, and they just happen to be playing with a guy that also plays like slide guitar, right?
Yeah.
But I bet you have a bunch of pals in Nashville in that scene too.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, and man, I said if it was any other city I would move to from Portland, I mean, Nashville would kind of be one of the ones I would love to move to. My good friend Trevor Larkin, he plays with me in the Alan Stone band. He lives out in Nashville, and he does a lot of different things. Out there.
sure.
One
Y-
day he can be in this session, then the next he can be in this session, then the next he can be in this session. So it's
Is that
it's
is, uh, is that what you would love to do, man? If you could just go from session to session and never have to leave home, just
I would love to be primarily just a studio musician. I love playing in the
yeah,
studio more than I love playing live.
yeah. Yeah. What is it about that? Is it just having the final product that reflects your playing, or the energy of the actual recording process?
Yeah, the recording and the creating process, man, you can't beat it. It's
Okay.
if people knew some of the industry tricks or the studio tricks that we do to make things sound the way they sound, it would
Yeah. Yeah.
it would trip them out. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Not just auto tune, but
hmm
what are some tricks that you can divulge about the drumming recording?
I mean, just like you can hit a tom, and they can go in and change the pitch on it. Or if they want to, they can just MIDI it, put it through a MIDI and actually put like another tom on it. Because I've been doing a lot of commercial stuff for Marmoset out
Oh,
here,
nice.
and I've seen them just take something that I did, chop it up, and do different things with it. Put these different filters and uh, things on it, and it just sounds totally blows me out my mind. Like wow, like
Yeah.
I know what I played, but this is like way bigger sound than what I was just doing in there. You know what I'm saying? And
I
it's amazing.
What I love about that is that it's still recorded live, right? Because
Yes.
you hear so much stuff on TV or video games, soundtracks,
hmm
or, everything's sampled or it's actually programmed,
Yep.
and it bumps me out, right? Because we don't want to lose gigs, and there is something, even if they're a wonderful drum producer or programmer, there's something about live drumming, that is just that organic thing is important. So even
hmm
if your stuff sounds processed, it's great that you're still getting your live recording down, and they're just
Yeah.
doing some cool stuff to trick it out.
Yeah. I
But,
mean, it's really no way that you can try to mimic drums with live drums because we go back to the nuances again. It's certain nuances that
yeah,
computer cannot do that a live drummer can do. You know,
yeah,
so you
that's
can
true.
so you can
Yeah,
change the sounds up on it, but as far as mimicking what you're doing, like with your hands or your fingers, you can still hear the difference. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, oh
It's
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're not machines.
yeah. Well, I'm interested, like guys like you mentioned Drake, and like doing Drake's party with Stevie Wonder.
hmm
My kid has talked a lot about how cool it'd be if like a Drake, or he was. It's weird in that little area, right, where Drake, Justin Bieber. Um, I think there were like three of the biggest recording artists of all time are all within like 20 miles of each other, right there outside of Toronto.
hmm
But the like well, I mentioned Bieber, right? So, um, um, Royster Jr. was playing with Bieber for a while, right? And then he's got somebody now, I forget,
Yeah,
Sticks.
Katy Perry.
Oh, Royster's playing with the Katy Perry gig, yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
Katy
and
Perry. Yeah,
and and Bieber got Sticks. I forget his
yeah,
last
Sticks. Yeah,
name,
hmm
but way
Sticks.
drummer. No, he.
I know you're talking about
Yeah,
Taylor or somebody that Sticks Taylor. I think.
yes, I think that's it.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that has all those chops, but
hmm
you can't play all those chops all over the top of a Bieber song, right? If you're out on tour,
hmm
there's just a part 5 songs in, right, where Justin's like, "All right, go for it for 30 seconds and do your thing." But my kid said, "Yeah, like how great would it be that to be able to have that kind of credibility where you're out there playing these huge like R&B, hip hop, like songs, but with a live band, there's so much energy to it. I love seeing bands like that go and they, playing to pre-recorded rhythm tracks, man.
hmm
So it's it's important, folks. If you guys are out there and you're supporting, these artists, make sure that they're playing with a live band. We talked Prince earlier, then maybe you can talk a little bit about, your connection with Liv and Prince thing. I know Prince would go through this process where he'd just clear house. It wasn't that he had anything against any musician in the band. He would even do it with like relationships, girlfriend, fiance,
hmm
wives. He's just like, all right, it's time in my life, change my name, change my band, change, whatever. What was your connection with Prince? Was it all just through Live?
Yeah, pretty much all through Live. Yeah.
Okay.
At the time, she had called Ryan Waters, guitar player, and myself up
Right.
from here to go down to Minneapolis to Paisley. We didn't know what we were going down there for. She just hit us with an email
Really?
like, you guys available to do this? And he's like, all right, Paisley, here we come. And we
Nice.
showed up, and we literally me and Ryan sat on stage for like about an hour, I'd say about 2 hours. And then finally Liv, Andrew Goucher, his bass player, Cassandra O'Neill, keyboard player,
Yeah.
and Shelby J, other background singer with MPG. They came in, he came up, shook our hands, and was like, okay, she's going to show you the songs, which was Cassandra. Cassandra basically trusted her to be an MD,
Okay.
and pretty much left. And man, we had to learn like 40 of his tunes, segues, all that stuff in about 10 days.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah.
That was just probably all day, I'm sure. Just
Oh yeah, we were in there 8 to 10 hours. Yeah.
wow.
Rehearsing. Then finally we started doing shows. We did these shows in the New York City winery, like a week of shows. And Prince showed up to about 3 of them. And man, they were just crazy. Just insane shows, man. Insane.
Wow.
Insane.
Was he on stage playing with you guys for those gigs?
So we were like partially part of MPG because he had the female band at the time, all females of him, Third Eye Blind or something like that. So they went to Europe, and so we were learning the songs with the MPG horns and all that for those shows. And so then he showed back up with them. So we would play a little bit, and then he would call them up, and then me and the drummer would switch out.
Okay. Nice.
I forgot her name. I think his name was Haley.
Hillary, right?
Yeah, something like that. And so she would come up and play. But it was very interesting.
I'll bet, man. Okay, go ahead.
And these shows, man, they would start at say 10 o'clock, and the ones with him, man, they probably went into like 4. One ended like 4 in the morning, and another one ended like 6 in the morning. Like,
oh my gosh, man,
that just kept going and going and going and going. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Like, you and I were talking about before we did the show here that Prince worked his band and his artists and his whole crew like so hard, but he never, from what I've heard, he had never asked anyone else to work more than he did, right? That I remember Liv saying something like he told her, "Hey, so be down. We're gonna show up early, right? I want you there in the studio at 4:00 in the morning. We're gonna start going through this stuff." And she said, I'd try to like get there earlier than like 3:30. And no, he was still there. He was there all night the night before.
Yeah.
And just and of course he lived there, but he never stopped working. And that the genius from that era. I was looking at some clips of where Liv was doing the gig with they had that Third Eye and doing something in Spain or France. Oh, it was in France, and even right up until the end, man, that dude had so much energy. It's crazy how much stamina he had, and I think about the shit I'm in right now, trying to get back on tour. I'm like, okay, if I complain one bit about how bad my back hurts or how tired I am, I just have to, I have to remember. All right, there's always somebody that's going to work a lot harder than me. Yeah. Was there just that kind of pressure where you're just like, because Liv, like for her to sing like that, that's going to be hard, long, and that intense too, right?
Yeah, but but the one thing with Prince that I will say that I definitely learned is you rehearse how you're going to be, how you're going to perform. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people rehearse, and I'm not saying they don't take it serious, but it's not energy wise. It's not how it should be on the stage.
Right.
His thing is rehearse like you're going to perform. You know what I'm saying? That's the best way to do it. Because when we did Fallon, we played "Why Do You Lie." We did that arrangement at least, I say 200 times before we even did it on the show.
Oh,
so it didn't matter. It didn't matter what happened. We were ready to rock. If something had to fail, we still would have been ready to rock. If something had happened with the sound, because we played that song so many times, it's eternalizing us. We were ready to go. Like nothing was going to stop us from getting that performance off. Like we were that dialed in. from all those
That's
from just rehearsing that song that many times.
well, I was going to ask you about that because the arrangement is different, right, than the recording, and so there, I
Yeah,
figured it's probably shortened because of TV, right? You got to fit in between the segments, and
yeah,
or
TV, choreographing, all that stuff.
yeah, man, like it's such a tiny little spot. You got all the NPG horns, everybody's like jumping
Very
on
tiny.
each other. Oh my god! But and it's the pocket. I mean, that it was way up tempo too, but it didn't
Hmm.
lose groove. It was like super up tempo compared to the recording. Oh, dude, you had Nick West on video for the
Hmm.
Waddy Live video. So
Hmm.
Nick, I'd met a handful of times down in LA. My hair most oftentimes with purple mohawk. So comparing purple hair. But had you gigged with her at all, or was that just a section for the video?
That was just a session for the video.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Th- There was a good chunk of my time where I thought I was trying to manifest. I wanted that gig because I love the way she played bass. I felt like we had a purple synergy thing going, and
Hmm.
you get it, dude. As a rhythm section, man, you want to find somebody that you have pocket with. So
Hmm.
I didn't realize that Ryan was from here, man. You just mentioned that he was the Portland guy.
Yeah, yeah. He lives down in Seattle.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah. Oh,
he is.
Northwest guy.
I believe his roots is based up in not too far from here in Portland.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wicked player, man. I love his playing too.
yeah.
And actually, and What He Lied plays a lot like Prince, man. I mean, his style, and he's got the
Hmm.
same guitar. He's got
Yeah.
the similar guitar from that era too. So probably not an accident, right? And so, uh, with the guilty pleasures, we got your country music, we got your legacy of community, we've got your the volume 3 album that you're working on for release in August, September.
Hmm.
Anything coming up soon? Look forward to seeing you play live.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be at the Alberta Street Pub this Friday night with Farnell Newton, Kyle Molitor, JP Downer, Mike Elson. From 9 to midnight, we'll have DJ OG1, the Portland Trailblazers official DJ. He'll be on the ones and twos spinning with us. And then Saturday night, I get to do a special Jimi Hendrix versus Party City 2034 show with Jimmy Russell on guitar, Andre Zapata on bass, and Andre plays in Alan Stone Band too. He's a bass player.
Okay.
And then my son will be joining me on stage. My son Tyrone Hendrix, 11 years old. He'll be joining
What?
me on stage to play with me. Yeah,
Wow. What does he play?
play drums.
No kidding, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. So that's Saturday
Hmm.
night. So Friday night
Yes.
is Alberta Street, and then where's Saturday at?
Alberta Street again, 6 to
Okay.
9. Yeah,
Okay.
all ages.
Do you have that info on your TyroneHendrix.com website?
Yes, or you can go to the Alberta Street Pub website also, or you can check the
Okay.
Facebook or Instagram. Everything's on there.
Okay. Right on, man. I'm glad that you mentioned the family connection in the
Hmm.
interview that you did with Tom D'Antoni a while ago. You mentioned
Hmm.
that there was a connection with so it was your grandfather's son, or tell me the connection, the Jimi Hendrix family connection. There is something there. Is that right?
Yeah, on my dad's side, his dad and Jimmy's dad are first cousins.
Okay, right on, man. That
Hmm.
there's there's got to be some soul channeling there, right? Especially up here in the Northwest. I was up yesterday, actually, at the
Hmm.
Experience Music Project or the Museum of Pop Culture, where the Hendrix Museum dedication is pretty rad, right? But,
Hmm.
how about that for legacy, right? Being able to, you imagine having that kind of influence worldwide that your 5 kids can look back and say, yeah, my dad, pretty much influenced every single musician on the planet with the. Well, dude, you're halfway there, right?
Hmm.
You're 45. You got a few years ahead of you before you can,
Yeah.
end that part of your influence. But so Friday, Saturday night, folks, if you're out and you want to go see some killer music, man, both lineups sound wicked. I'd love to
Oh
see
yeah.
you play with Farnell, and I'm going to put this link back up here for the Portland Cello Project gig here too, because this one, Stone City Events is putting it on. It's April 16th in Lewistown, Montana,
Hmm.
hiddennt.com. So if you want to follow the rest of me and the groupies out to Montana, folks, you can go out and see Tyrone, and you can also see the PortlandCelloProject.com, which is awesome. Doug Jenkins and the entire ensemble of wonderful
Yeah.
musicians that have done a great job of paying tribute to Prince and Radiohead and everything else that you guys are doing. So So if you're out there, hit TyroneHendrix.com. Go out and buy these records. It's fun. There's great stuff. I know that you're on Spotify and out, and hopefully, man, I had a chance to see you and Liv play together. I think that would be phenomenal too. Like, she's in Chicago, I believe, still, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would. That'd be a special one. Do you guys stay in touch at all?
Oh yeah, we stay in touch. We played this last July at the lot, it was right on the river. A place called the Lot. And that was
Yeah,
fun.
the yards, right?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had friends that were there, and I was on tour, but I missed it. But I'm glad you guys got to get back and do it. Same line. Do you have the MPs with you?
No, we Farnell and Cal were the horn section. Marquis Simpster, he had played with her. He actually played bass on Fallon with us and played on the record. He played bass and trying to our good friend Alex Millsett was on organ. And then Ryan was on keys, and his son actually, Ryan's on guitar, and his son actually DJ'd. And then she had background singers Red and Saida Wright. So it was a blast. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Wow. Well, dude, you definitely are a gift to this community, and I
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you working through all the issues to get here, man. Well, I think we lost a little video of you a little while ago, but your audio came through loud and clear. It may have just been the internet connection. So
Yeah.
regardless, man, I'm grateful to have your time. And guys, if you got here late, go back and listen. Like, this dude's got so many amazing stories about fun musicians and really, really good advice about getting and keeping the gig. So go back and hit this from the beginning. I'll have this archived at accesskevin.com in a few minutes. And Tyrone, man, dude, it really has been a pleasure getting to know more about you. I do appreciate this.
Oh man, thank you so much. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but
it's all right, man. You know what? As you know, through the pandemic, we just roll with it.
Yeah.
You know, and roll with it and just pretend like it was all part of the plan, right?
Oh man, no problem. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And yeah.
Thank you, buddy. All right, give my best to your family. Tell them thanks for sharing you tonight.
No problem. I definitely will.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you Wednesday with Michelle Lynn.